And there was a sense of jubilation, of course, because as we know, the supreme terrorist, so to speak, is dead. And you have to recall that many families have just finished burying their loved ones after the massacre in the last couple of months of over 40,000 Iranians who took to the streets to protest freedom, barehanded, might I add, brutalized. Last month, the streets were literally being power washed of their blood. So, parents are still nursing their blinded sons and daughters. Mothers are still grieving their children. And this feels like accountability for many and a sense of poetic justice. It's been 47 years of this. And this is why when you're seeing videos on the inside of Iranians celebrating and on the outside saying, thank you, President Trump, we love Trump, and expressing gratitude openly, sweets being handed out, chants from the rooftops and dancing on the streets, it's because for decades, Iranians have felt abandoned, watching Western leaders make deals with the very regime that represses them. And for the first time in a long time, I think they feel like the world isn't throwing them under the bus.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, 47 years of this, so many human rights abuses. Talk to us a little bit more about that, because it was a different story prior to this regime.
Yeah, for 47 years, Iran has lived under a regime that governs through fear, where women are policed for how they dress, where minorities are punished for who they are, religious persecution, dissidents disappear into prisons, confessions are extracted under torture, and executions are used to terrorize a population. Sexual assaults, unfortunately, is used to quiet dissent. And a nation of extraordinary diversity and talent has been held hostage by radical terrorist exporting regime. And it's sad to think only 50 years ago, almost overnight, with this Islamic revolution, women lost almost all of their rights, and many other members of society. So the Iranians are very clear that they do not want a reform. They don't want a change of face. They want this regime gone.
Yeah, and when announcing the death of Khomeini, President Trump called the Ayatollah, quote, one of the most evil people in history. Do you think that's an accurate assessment?
Ayatollah Khomeini has a sea of blood on his hands. And, in 2 days alone, this past couple of months, as I mentioned, 40,000 massacred. Behind every number is a mother who buried a child who buried a parent, families forced to nurse bullet wounds at kitchen tables because hospitals were monitored and protesters were shot at hospitals. Mothers have spent years grieving instead of watching their children graduate. Fathers have watched their daughters dragged into vans for showing their hair, only to have their lifeless bodies sexually abused and disfigured returned. Prison cells have swallowed journalists, activists, teenagers. Imagine burying your child, Tracy, not in a cemetery, but in your backyard, because the government won't release their body unless the family pays you. This is what the likes of Ali Khamenei and the entire system has represented.
Yeah, Parmida, let me ask you this. What do you think when you see these protests actually for the regime by people on the left, and they're against these strikes by the U.S. and Israel on Iran? What goes through your mind? I mean, these are people that don't live there.
Of course, many people are very out of touch with what actually happens on the ground. And unfortunately, we didn't see any of them speaking out when 40,000 were massacred on the streets. So it's a lot of selective empathy. And, they're locked in a narrative of this oppressor oppressed. Unfortunately, they're on the wrong side of the equation. But what I'd like to really focus about here is that, for decades, this Islamic Republic has survived by violence, mass arrests, executions, torture, shooting protesters in the streets. And now that these regimes' repressive force is weakened, that changes the balance of power. And so we need to keep leveling the playing field for Iranians. The Iranians have demonstrated repeatedly that they are ready to mobilize, and the millions, in fact, have taken to the streets at the call of Prince Reza Pahlavi on January 8th and 9th. And one of the missing pieces has always been the brutally crushed dissent. And if that apparatus is significantly degraded, ordinary Iranians now have a chance to reassert themselves. And it's about creating that space for Iranians to finish what they started and what they've been trying to accomplish for decades.
Yeah, Parmida, 10 seconds left. Quickly, what's your hope for your home country?
You know, in fragile moments, you need a unifying bridge, and Prince Reza Pahlavi has stepped up, and he has a plan, a transition plan. Iranians are united under the Lion and Sun flag. We will not accept anything but Iran's territorial integrity, human rights, free and fair elections, and freedom for all, so Iranians can love who they want to love, dress how they want to be, and integrate back into the free world and create peace and stability with all of our neighbors in the world at large.
We'd like to see that too. Parmida Barez, great to be with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Tracy.